Hey guys, welcome back to Canon Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDay Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing two brand new Netflix films that just dropped. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The House, which is a stop-motion animated anthology series, and it is directed by the leading voices in independent stop-motion animation. So Story 1 was directed by Mark James Roldes and Emma DeSwaif and is set in the 1800s. So the voice cast for Story 1 consists of Matthew Good as Raymond, Claudie Blakely as Penelope, and Mia Goth as Mabel, and of course newborn Isabel, which I'll get into later. So the four of them really have such a tight-knit, loving home in the middle of the forest. And what I really love that the directors did in this first story is set the tone of what a house actually means. Even though a home is technically four walls and a roof over your head, it's what's inside that makes up the home. It's the loving family, the warmth, whatever family unit consists of. And it's just a feeling that you get with your loved ones within the house itself. So the house really is just a foundation in order to build your life in with your loved ones. We then see that Raymond's side of the family, who, they're a part of high society, comes to visit him and the family because of their newborn Isabel. So during that encounter, his high society privileged family really just talks down to him in a very condescending manner, saying like this is the life you decide to lead, and puts really bad thoughts into his head, which then causes him to spiral because of course he would have wanted to lead a better life, but he was unable to given the job that he chose. So before his privileged side of the family stepped in, he was perfectly content with the way he was living, and then the family stepped in and made him spiral, turned to alcohol, made some very poor decisions. He ventured out into the forest and found this one guy that granted him this wish of making his dream home. So the very next day, there's a knock on the door, and this gentleman who works for the architect, he lets him know that his home, his current home, will be torn down and rebuilt into the home of his dreams. And then for the meantime, so they do have a place to sleep and live until it's finished, they have to go to this other house that is owned by the architect at the top of the hill. So before I get into what happens in this house, this animation is absolutely stunning to look at. Every little thing, from the floorboards within the house, the furniture, the fire in the fireplace, the fabrics on the curtain, just every little thing was so beautifully created and animated that it literally felt lifelike. I think this is the first stop motion animation piece that I've seen that really just looks authentic and realistic, and it looks like it's a part of live action, but it's not, and it's animation. I was beyond impressed with this. So you have the realism within the house itself, which is very important when it comes to other aspects of the house actually coming alive. It's just a really good concept. The fact that it shows the house breathing and living through three different stories and three different eras was really interesting choice, and definitely makes an impact in regards to the themes of each story. So in this first one in particular, it's all about materialism. He wanted to have bigger and better things. If we do look at our materialistic things, they do not define us. We as people, what's in our hearts and what's in our minds, that's what defines us. What we end up doing with our own knowledge and our own spirit, that's what defines us. So I think that they did show that in a very dark and twisted way. I thought it was really strong to start off with this first one. So Story 2 is directed by Nikki Lindroth von Bauer, and they bring the house into present day. So as we go into the house, we see this mouse, and he's the developer. Name the developer, he's the contractor. He's been trying to remodel this house, and he finally got it to like his perfect ideal of what this house should be, and he wanted to put it on the market. Going back to the animation, this house looked better than half of the homes that I have seen in what I'm currently living in too. It was really crazy. I'm like, this is freaking perfect. It's beautiful. There was like a whole room that was purple and gray, and I'm like, this, can I move in? Like, please. It looks so good. Just so polished and clear and meticulous. Every single room looked finished to perfection. This contractor made himself feel bigger. He used a different persona as a developer versus who he actually was. So we get that contrast between him being very anxious around other people when showing his work versus him believing himself on his own. So before he has the open house, he notices that there are bugs in the home, that the cracks are starting to come through. And that also symbolizes how he's feeling. He finally built this persona of someone who knows what he's talking about, knows what he's doing, only for his anxiety to creep through and make things more difficult for him. It was just really interesting to see this character develop and see what happens to him towards the end of this film. It just shows how people take advantage of others in situations when they're vulnerable, and I thought it was great. So story 3 is directed by Paloma Beza. The house is placed in a different landscape. It survived essentially because there was so much flooding, and we meet a cat this time. Beautiful animation on the cat as well. We meet Rosa, who is voiced by Susan Wokoma. So she's a young landlady who is so determined to stay in this house, and she wants to repair it and get tenants who will pay her to repair it, so she builds her dream home. So now it comes full circle into the future, where what makes a home? What makes a house? So Rosa has her other friends in the house, and I'm using air quotes because she sees them as tenants, where her tenants see her as a friend, but she's never crossed that line between the two of them because she's just so determined to fix this home, or hotel in this case, to what she wants. If there was a level of caring between her and the tenants where there is a developed friendship, then it would be more of a give and take than them not caring enough to actually pay her in cash. So without ruining much, this home becomes more than a house to her. It becomes a dream, and then she loses sight of what consists of making a home work. What's the point of having something built like this, your dream home, if you don't have anyone to share it with? I really enjoyed the house. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Again, I was so impressed with this animation. And if you're not a fan of animated films, I would definitely try this out, just because it's split into 3 parts. So it's 3 short stories, and you could kind of get a feel of what magic animation can bring, especially stop motion animation, and the wonderful work that everyone is doing in this field. The other film that just dropped on Netflix is called Brazen, directed by Monica Mitchell and starring Alyssa Milano and Sam Page. We all love our mystery thrillers. We all do. Sometimes they're generic by the book. Well, this is actually adapted from the Nora Roberts best-selling novel Brazen Virtue, which Monica Mitchell actually read on vacation 3 times over. That is what she told me. And it's that good. You really get tied into these characters, and it's a really good mystery. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that it matters when there is a female director behind the camera. There's a massive difference. So we're introduced to a prominent mystery writer named Grace, who is played by the wonderful Alyssa Milano. This role was like made for her. It was so good. And her sister Kathleen, who is played by Emily Ullerup. So Kathleen's going through a divorce. She may lose custody of her son, and Grace heads back just to help her out with all of this that's happening. Kathleen's also a teacher during the day, and someone completely different at night. Yes, so what this movie dives into is the accessibility to women online. I do think that it's a very important subject, and Monica Mitchell brought it to the screen in a very tasteful manner that doesn't really exploit women as certain male directors probably would have done with this kind of subject matter. So Kathleen is a teacher by day. She is a cam girl, a dominatrix by night, and goes by the name of Desiree, and she works with a company. It's another side of sex work that has become very popular. Going back to what I said about Monica Mitchell and the choices that she made, was that when Desiree was with her clients at night, she only incorporated the beginning of the evening with her clients and then the ending of the evening with her clients. And she made that choice, which was something that we don't normally see. We probably would have seen these sexual acts happening if it were a male director, and she chose not to do that. We have the alter ego of Desiree. One night when she did finish her chem work, she ended up getting murdered. So we have her sister Grace, who is a mystery writer, right in the heart of it, a little too close to home. So she meets the next door neighbor, who's actually a detective named Ed, and together they try to find her murder. So without getting into the whole mystery of it all, without spoilers, it was really interesting to see the choices that were made from a female perspective, how females have been taken advantage of online and how women are treated in online spaces. It's the way that people interact with each other, and it does get borderline scary in this particular film. So I thought it was very eye-opening. It's a very necessary story. I think that a lot of people should watch it just because of what actually goes on online, and these things need to be addressed. So I really appreciate what Monica Mitchell did in this. Alyssa Milano gave a great performance and really carried the film on her back. There were some pacing issues. It started to lull in the middle of it where they didn't find the person fast enough, and it was more of like, we don't know what to do in the middle of it, and then it picked right back up in the third act, obviously. But I think that the pacing and certain scenes should have been moved around or maybe cut out just to find out a bit faster. It was like trying to divert the attention. Once you try to divert the attention in a mystery thriller a little bit too long, you kind of lose the audience. I did give Brazen a 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It is a generic mystery thriller. The story's really strong. The performances, apart from Melissa Milano, could have been a bit better from the supporting cast, but that third act is completely wild, and just like kudos to Monica Mitchell for tastefully bringing this story to the screen in this way. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.